Well, it's the end of October, a time of the year when our thoughts turn to the creepier side of life. Or is that the creepier side of death? We're here today in Parkdale, one of Toronto's oldest and apparently most haunted neighborhoods.
I'm Mysterion the Mindreader, Toronto's foremost mentalist with a PhD in ESP, paranormalist. I also live here in Parkdale. So if there's anyone who knows any of the happenings of the hereafter, it's going to be me.
And what are we going to do today?
Well, we're going to take you on some of the haunts of the area, and I'm not talking about the watering holes of the Great Queen Street West. We're going to go step back into the past and visit some tenants who decided never to leave. We're at 1522 Queen Street West, the former location of the Nine of Cups Cafe, which was a sort of spooky place in itself. It was mainly inhabited by Toronto's goth community a number of years back. But long before then, it was the site of the Parkdale Butcher. In the 1920s, there was a family-run butcher shop, and an unfortunate tale of one of the daughters of the man who actually cut herself on one of the saws and bled to death in the basement. There's been numerous accounts of her apparition being seen in the building, not only by the prior tenants, but ones before them. And as you can see, this is prime real estate now in the city of Toronto, and no one seems to want to rent it.
So where are we now?
We're at 1488 Queen West, but what once stood here was the building that housed the first spire of the two-spired building that would have been at the foot of Jameson Avenue. This building here isn't so important, though, as is that one, which still has the spire on top. So I've heard that the building is haunted by poltergeists. There's numerous reports from that building, different tenants that live in there, that candelabras, I've heard, have actually torn from the wall, books have flown off shelves, things have overturned themselves, a general unpleasant feeling in the apartments.
Tell us about this spot here.
Well, this area is named West Lodge, and it's named after the building that used to actually stand at the end of this street, which was owned by Colonel O'Hara. His mansion used to stand over there, and when he moved out many a moon ago, the mansion was transformed into a children's orphanage. That's long been demolished. What is important is what people see on this street. A lot of people claim to see the apparition of a nun walking around this area. Often I've heard stories of, in the 70s, people who were down and out being comforted by this celestial woman coming in from the darkness and giving them a piece of advice or directing them to find some type of solace in her words. I've never seen anything. I've come and looked for it many, many times. The only things I've seen around here that are really scary are the crackheads. This is a really strange area. It doesn't look like much. It's a parking lot. There's a pretty dilapidated little corner mall. But there's a very rich history to where we're standing. This is the location of two different places. The former Parkdale train station, which was connected via an underground passage into the Gladstone Hotel across the street, and the former women's reformatory, where you'd be locked up if perhaps you were going to go through menopause or you went into debt and it was the poorhouse. I've known of a few people who've come around here on ghost walks and with spiritualist circles and have claimed to have had slaps across the face, people pulling on their clothes, all sorts of different things. To the people who are going to be purchasing townhouses in this vicinity, they are going to be living in the exact same area space that this building once was. So I'd like to see what happens in the next couple of years with these new homeowners. The Gladstone Hotel was and is now one of the most sought after locations in the city. For a number of years there went sort of, under. There's been staff that told me that downstairs in the beer keg room that they'll see a woman walking by. There's a gentleman seen on the second floor. There's been many deaths in the hotel over the years, but the ghost is said to be a train robber who escaped from the train when it docked at Parkdale train station and hid the booty somewhere in the building. And there's often speculation that that was money found during the renovation, which ended up funding the final renovation of the Gladstone Hotel, which of course is an urban myth. I've stayed many nights in the hotel. I've felt things. I've never seen them. But if you go on my website, there is a photo of me conducting a spirit seance in the ballroom. It's untouched and undoctored. There's a very strange mist coming out of the center of the table and hovering all over all of us sitting around. So.
Well, we've seen some pretty scary locations today. If you want to do your own ghost tour, though, there's a couple of resources you might want to check out. Robert Colombo has written a number of books about hauntings and poltergeist activity in Ontario and Toronto. And also there's a group called the Toronto Ghost Research Society. They've got a website that posts things they've investigated and are investigating. And you never know, one of them might be your neighbor. Have a happy and spooky Halloween. This has been June Morrow for 52 Mondays.